HBO out saying more crazy things, talking to BuzzFeed, saying, you know what? People share HBO passwords, right? We get this, with family or friends. Richard Plepler, CEO of HBO, says, it's not that we're unmindful of it. It just has no impact on the business. It is in many ways a terrific marketing vehicle for the next generation of viewers. He said, noting that it could potentially lead to more subscribers in the future. So he even called it like, we want to get people addicted to HBO. And if the family and friends share it with their, friends who can't afford to get their own HBO, that's fine. On the other hand, MPD Group put out some numbers today. It's easy to take these out of context, but 32% of U.S. households subscribed to premium cables in August 2013. And during that same month, 27% of households subscribed to online video services. And in the U.S. particularly, Netflix had 31 million U.S. subscribers in 2013 compared to 28.7 million for HBO. So you'll see a lot of headlines today, and Netflix stealing from HBO, but there are more subscribers to Netflix than HBO right now.
Well, let's go in reverse order, because I think the first story is the more interesting one. But just to clear up the whole Netflix thing, this is what you would expect when something is a fundamentally new method of distribution, and it's very much on the rise. If you think of television and the way we consume our video as like a tree of life in the Darwinian sense, you got your cable branch over here, you got your internet branch over here. We're a whole show about the development of that internet side of things. So it makes sense that the number one distribution hub, I guess for paid content, we'll say Netflix is number one compared to like your YouTubes or whatever. It makes sense that it would swell. And at some point, keep in mind, HBO is not a distribution platform. It is a single channel that is part of the cable tree. And now, granted, it's a very high-end, a very profitable, a very boutique one that a lot of people like. But it makes sense that you would expect Netflix to pass HBO. Netflix is not passing cable. It's passing HBO, a small but very popular part of the cable thing. So yes, we are, I guess, as cord cutters, we're happy to see it growing. But is this, earth-shattering news? I don't think so. What about you, Tobias?
No, I agree. I mean, as you said, it's much easier for your Americans right now to get on a Netflix account than it is to get an HBO account. I mean, you only need to have like an iPhone and you can get a Netflix subscription. While HBO, you actually need to have a full cable subscription and a set-top box and so on. And I mean, I don't see it impossible. There is a lot of people doing Netflix from like the student dorms, which don't even maybe have cable in certain places and so on. So I see it completely natural.
So, which brings me to the first story, which I do think is the much more interesting one, partly because it's rare that you get somebody so candid talking this way. And HBO's done this before. HBO, when they they said they were flattered to be the single most pirated content on BitTorrent.
It was kind of the same template, right? They said, we're not encouraging it, but yeah, it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It means good things for us.
Exactly. And in that regard, you'll notice if you watch the entire thing, and I think we have some of it right here. If you listen to him talking on the BuzzFeed interview, there's a moment he keeps going farther and farther talking about what it means. Go ahead and play this. We'll kind of chat over him.
The strategy is you ignore it now on the hopes that they'll subscribe later.
It's not that we're ignoring it and we're working at different ways to affect password sharing. I'm simply telling you it's not a fundamental problem, and the externality of it is that it
I think this makes sense as well. I mean,
the brand
they have shown before, HBO in the US, that they want to go more like to the same model that they have here in the Nordics, the HBO Nordic. So I don't think it means that much to them, because they make a lot of money from the cable subscriptions right now with the bundling and all that. But they also want to make sure that they are positioned well for people in the future if cable is going away, right?
Yeah, well, and you'll notice, like, I'm glad we saw that exact moment, because what's curious is that's the moment when he starts to pull back. Like, he says the extraordinary thing, which is like, look, we understand it's happening, and he tells the story about when he meets people, how many of you guys are using your parents' code when you do sign up for cable, how many of you got HBO because you saw the content, but then immediately you'll notice he says, oh yeah, so everyone's using it and you're cool with it, and then he very clearly says, I'm just saying that's an externality that we are aware of and are unconcerned with because it's so tiny compared to the overall picture. So it's
honestly, they are the first executives I see saying exactly what they should be saying, which is, we're not saying it's okay.
Right.
We're not encouraging it. but we're also saying that's the reality of the situation, and it doesn't mean entirely horrible things. And we're going to go with that. And he also went on to talk about HBO Go being value added. Right now, you have to have a basic cable subscription to get HBO. You can't just buy it on its own and get HBO Go over the internet. And he said, right now, that's the right model for us, but we're always thinking about optionality. If the arithmetic changes and made sense in a different way, we are not going to be caught without the ability to pivot. Now, the key thing there is the arithmetic making sense. Right now, they get a bunch of free advertising from cable companies, so they don't want to ruin that relationship because that's helping drive subscriptions. But they want to be able to pivot. So HBO Nordic, that Tobias just mentioned, is sort of their experiment in providing HBO over the internet. Now, Tobias, we've mentioned on the show before, this hasn't been entirely successful for them yet.
No, they have had a lot of troubles. First of all, they took way too long to launch. They'd been talking about it forever, and they launched about a year ago now, and it hasn't been really that good for them. Sure, they have probably done a lot of subscription, but for example, they started by requiring a 12-month subscription without any way to break it. So basically, you had to pay upfront for 12 months. To get into the subscription. They have dropped that, and my suspicion is because they couldn't get people to sign up for it.
Well, and that was one of the stories we'd heard, is that HBO Nordic did not do very well, but we got one letter from somebody who was in the target market area. It said, yeah, they don't advertise it. Nobody knows what HBO is. It's as though you manufactured a brand new brand and tried to launch it into this new space. Of course it's not going to do as well as Netflix. Of course it's going to get killed.
Right. So that's one problem. I mean, HBO hasn't been in Sweden. This is the first time they come to Sweden. I can't speak for Denmark or Norway, but I guess it's the same there, that this is the first time you can actually get HBO's at HBO in these countries. Before, we could get certain shows, like we have always had HBO shows on Swedish television. But right now, they are really struggling. And one of the things they have got a lot of problem with is the technology platform, because they have not leveraged the technology platform they have in the States. They've actually bought up a whole new system, and that system seems to have a lot of problems, and they have publicly said so as well, like we might not have made the best choice for a technology platform. And one of the things that technology platform prevents is actually the possibility to AirPlay from your phone to the Apple TV. I'm guessing because of DRM restrictions, but that kind of makes it's a huge bummer for people that subscribe to that and want to see it on the TV, and the technology is not there to do it for them.
It's almost like they're using HBO Nordic as their guinea pig, right? They're saying, okay, what happens if we have to do the marketing from scratch? And we lose all of that marketing muscle that cable gives us. What happens if we have to really build out the technology platform to handle more than an occasional HBO Go viewer, but become the primary support mechanism for that? They're making